Opening practice for the Indianapolis 500 has come and gone. We'll talk about Kyle Larson and who was fastest in that session. Kyle Busch says he has had 2 signed, sealed, and delivered Indy 500 deals done. Neither of them came to fruition. And is it time to panic about the current state of racing in the NASCAR Cup Series? Welcome back to Break Hard. I'm Matt, sunshirt on because I am absolutely torched and my back feels like there is a million little needles plugging into it. All at the same time, it really sucks. Before we get into the actual news we want to talk about, a couple of little things to touch on. Harrison Burton will be running the All-Star race for Rick Ware Racing in that number 51 car. Obviously, he has an automatic entry thanks to his win at the Summer Daytona race with the Wood brothers last year. Really cool that he's getting that opportunity. Obviously, making the All-Star race based off a win in the Cup Series is a really special thing. So I'm glad that he's getting the opportunity to go out there and run this race. Something that like Shane Van Gisbergen didn't get to do in 2024 when he won at Chicago in 2023. So really cool that he's getting that opportunity there. I will say also the Wood brothers, speaking of the Wood brothers, they're doing a really good throwback for North Wilkesboro with Josh Berry in that 21 car, throwing it back to Michael Waltrip's old Sitco paint scheme with the team as well. They absolutely nailed the execution of it. Once again, they are phenomenal at throwbacks over at that team. But let's get into what we want to talk about today. We're going to start off with Indianapolis 500 practice. Opening day of practice delayed by rain because, well, it's Indiana in the springtime, and that's just what's always going to happen. You know what they say? Wait around 15 minutes and the weather's going to change. They say that about literally every place you've ever been in your entire life, but hey, it works in Indianapolis as well, and it took a little bit more than 15 minutes. They finally got cars on track, and when they did, it was a pretty eventful session. No incidents, which is really, really good. We don't want to see anybody tear up any cars on the first day of practice, but what we did get to see were, I think, 2 guys that have kind of asserted themselves as maybe the favorites very early on. It's really difficult to say. I'm not willing to be like, hey, that's my pick to win the Indianapolis 500, but we'll get to it. We'll start off with Kyle Larson. He had the 24th fastest time on Tuesday, and I know people are going to say, oh man, that sounds terrible, and it does sound terrible, all things considered, but 221 mile per hour, I wouldn't read too much into it. He had his no-toe speed was okay, but again, doesn't matter. They're not in qualifying trim. Turned in 45 laps out there on Tuesday. I think it was good for him to have an uneventful session after, of course, the last time he was here a few weeks ago, he crashed down in turns 1 and ended up in turn 2 on a qualifying sim. So I think it's good that he was able to get out there, get a clean session in, work around in traffic, pass some cars, get passed by some cars, kind of get reacclimated with the whole thing, considering he's been in a cup car for all the other months that aren't named May. So I think that it was good for him to get out there and do that. Obviously, throughout Wednesday, Thursday, Friday practice, you're going to want to see him start to come around a little bit more. I think the raceability in that car is okay. The McLaren cars didn't necessarily look super fast on Tuesday. And again, I don't think that's a bad thing as of yet. If we get to Thursday and they're still looking like they're struggling, then might be a little bit time to panic here. Pacing the day, that would go to Will Power, 227 mile per hour lap for him in that number 12 team, Team Penske. Second place, second fastest on the board, that would be Joseph Newgarden, 2-time defending winner of this race. Can he three-peat and win his 3rd Indianapolis 500 in a row? I will say that car looked super, super strong on Tuesday. It was able to pass cars when it wanted to. He was able to drop back, pull up, and kind of do whatever he wanted, which is good for him, bad for everybody else, especially if he puts himself in that second place position coming into the closing laps of the race, because guess what? He's probably going to end up winning it once again. Third place, that goes to Alex Palou. That was the other car on Tuesday that I noticed was able to do whatever he wanted out there. He could pass cars at will. He could drive wherever he wanted to, suck up really well, drive away from cars. Again, that car looked super drivable for him. I would right now put Newgarden and Palou kind of as the favorites right now in terms of cars that we've seen drive within traffic of others. When it comes to the pole time, yeah, I think they're going to be up there contending for the pole. Absolutely. Ganassi, Penske last year swept the front row. We know they're going to have speed. They took all those secrets from Michael Cannon, as much as they don't want to admit that. I think we all know that's what happened here. So yeah, I think it's good for them. Hey, Prema had Michael Cannon, and then he decided to leave that program before it really even got started this year, and they probably really could have used him on Tuesday at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway because Prema struggled to get their cars just even out of the garage and on track. So when they were here for the test a couple weeks ago in Indianapolis, they were using the road course cars on the oval, testing for that. Now they have oval-specific cars ready to go for the Indy 500, except they were still putting them together on Tuesday morning, and ultimately their cars only got out for 6 laps and 16 laps apiece. Not ideal for them, especially especially for Robert Schwartzman, who was attempting to qualify for the Indy 500. You have Callum Ilott. Again, he's been in an Indianapolis 500, but you want that track time as well. And it was a big time struggle for that Prema team. And Prema, they're consummate professionals, right? They are one of the best open wheel junior teams ever to come out of Europe. They're a really good sports car team. IndyCar so far has been a bit of a struggle for them, especially getting the cars to run, not catch on fire, chasing electrical gremlins, kind of anything and everything about it. But they were able to get on track. Hopefully that means on Wednesday they'll be able to get out when the track opens. The schedule for Wednesday is a little bit messed up because of the rain that delayed the start of practice on Tuesday. The refresher course for Tony Kanaan will be able to run, and rookies, I believe, will also be able to run on Wednesday. And then they'll also have the open test for the rest of the cars, or open practice, rather, for the rest of the cars, as well. So another 6 hours of practice on Wednesday. We'll see how it all shakes out. But right now, it looks like Palou and Newgarden are probably the favorites going forward. Things can absolutely change, though. Marco Andretti was really concerned about the speed in his car. He was able to climb back up when he got out and started messing around in traffic. When it comes to single car speed, probably still some work to be done there. The Dale Coyne cars, who are typically usually fast at Indianapolis, seem to struggle just a little bit as well. Overall, interesting first day of practice. I'm really excited to see what happens on Wednesday and Thursday. I think that's when we're going to get to really feel out how the rest of this field is going to go and who might be the players and who aren't, or who's going to really have to worry about making the race come Saturday. Staying on the topic of the Indianapolis 500, but with another NASCAR driver named Kyle, not little Kyle, but big Kyle in this situation. Kyle Busch was on Denny Hamlin's Actions Detrimental podcast this week, and he said that he's had 2 Indianapolis 500 deals signed, sealed, and delivered, ready to go, and neither of them ever came to fruition. So we've kind of known about both of these deals, but he expanded on them a little bit more. In 2017, he said he had a deal ready to go. M&M was going to be the sponsor. Toyota signed off on him driving a Chevrolet. Everything was set up, ready for him to make that start, and Joe Gibbs denied it. They shut the whole program down, and Denny even said that he had an opportunity to run the 24-hour race, I believe in Daytona, and Gibbs went and checked everything out, and they didn't like the situation, and he said it all comes down to them not being able to control it. They didn't like the opportunity that was presented, and that's why they denied it. Now, Kyle Busch had the opportunity to run the Indy 500, and an M&M's car, that would have, as people say, fed families. There would have been so many of those cars sold during the month of May because kids love M&M's. They would have sold so much merchandise, but ultimately, Kyle Busch ends up not getting to do the Indianapolis 500 that year. Real big bummer. Interested to know what the team was that he was going to work with. Obviously, it's a Chevy team. Don't think it was going to be Penske. You had, ECR, AJ Foyt Racing at that time? As maybe a mix in there as well. I'm not sure who the team would have been, but it would have still been really cool to see him get that opportunity. Then he said that he had another deal signed, ready to go, sponsor, signed up. Everything was good to go. He was going to drive for Arrow McLaren, and he said that Zach Brown, who of course runs McLaren, came to the sponsor and said, hey, you're going to have to buy the tub, buy the car, because they didn't want to take on the expense in case Kyle crashed it, right? Like, this is now your responsibility. You're going to pay for this, and that being the sponsor. And the sponsor was like, we're not interested in doing that, considering this is just a one-off race. Why, and as Denny pointed out, why there wasn't a crash clause in that contract, I'll never know. Obviously, if you don't know what a crash clause is, it's basically the contract that you signed to drive the car. It's like, hey, if you wreck this car, you are on the hook to pay for the damages and the repairs for this car. An incentive to not wreck the car, not do something stupid. And maybe some of these paid drivers out there should have crash clauses in their contract, because these teams could certainly make more money. But obviously, they're bringing the budget and everything like that. Whatever. But I'm not sure why that was included there. And then ultimately it ended up not happening because the team turned around and went to Kyle Larson. Larson signed a 2-year deal, and Kyle was only going to do a 1-year deal, and he's not racing in the Indianapolis 500 once again. Who was his sponsor at that point? There's been a lot of talk that it appears to probably have been Menards. Kyle said on the podcast that the sponsor they were going to use is very close to Roger Penske. Menards, of course, has a very close relationship with Team Penske across both of their series, in IndyCar and both in NASCAR. So it would have made sense. There's been some talk that McLaren torpedoed the deal because they didn't want to put Menards on Menards color instead of papaya on the car. John Menard didn't want the papaya. He wanted his Menards yellow. Regardless, it sounds like it just came down to the fact that the sponsor didn't want to pay for the car, and then you have Hendrick Motorsports, who's willing to just kind of go out with an open checkbook and put Kyle Larson in it. And at the end of the day, we still didn't get Kyle Busch in the Indianapolis 500. And now at 40 years old, that window is really, really closing, especially in a really competitive car. And maybe next year could be his opportunity, right? Doesn't sound like Kyle Larson's going to do it a third year in 2026. So maybe we'll get to see Kyle Busch there in 2026 at the age of 41. I don't care how old he is. I just want to see Kyle Busch get the opportunity to race the Indy 500, because he talked about when he did the Lexus program down in IMSA, and he was like, yeah, in race pace, he said I was a lot more competitive than I was in just like straight up qualifying pace. So like qualifying pace about 0.3 off, race pace right there with those guys. And he said that just made me hungrier to go to Indianapolis and try to run the 500, knowing that he thought that he could probably keep up in race pace more than he could in qualifying pace. So yeah, let's get it done. I don't care. Actually, I do care. I want him to be in a competitive car, so hopefully they can get that done for 2026, because I think everybody would like to see it right now, and Kyle's become a bit of a fan favorite again. So there would be a ton of accolades and a ton of fans there for him if he were to get that done. Last topic of the day, and it's more of a conversation. I want to know what everybody else's thoughts are about this as well. Is it time to panic about the current state of racing in the NASCAR Cup Series? Now, if you've talked to some fans, they say NASCAR's in the midst of some really boring races, a really bad stretch of races here. You had William Byron dominate Darlington, try to lead basically every single lap. You had a Bristol where Kyle Larson dominated. You had a Talladega where Austin Cindric wins in this gridlock finish where nobody could make any moves. And then you have a Kansas race where Kyle Larson dominates again. And that was kind of just the culmination for people. And they're like, man, if Kansas is broken, then this entire car is broken. I still contend that Kansas isn't as broken as some people say. You take Kyle Larson out of the equation, that was still a good Kansas race. It's just unfortunate that one car kind of dominated the day. But we've seen cars dominate the day in every generation. We saw Earnhardt do it. We saw Gordon do it. Cale Yarborough done it. Richard Petty did it. Jimmy Johnson, Matt Kenseth, Martin Truex Jr. Like, everybody has dominated races at some point in their career, and Kyle Larson's doing it right now with Cliff Daniels. The problem is, I think what we're seeing is a lot of these dominating performances. They used to be, not few and far between, but they weren't on the regular. We would see them every now and then throughout a year. We're kind of starting to see them happen a lot. And I think that's what's turning a lot of people off. And maybe it is time for NASCAR to introduce a bit of a rules change or a package change, a new variable, something to throw these guys off their game and give them something else to chase in that pursuit of perfection. We've seen Formula One do it. They do it, every 5 years, basically. They have a regulations change. IndyCar does it sometimes when they remember that they're an actual racing series. NASCAR's done it in the past, whether it be introducing a new generation car, whether it be introducing a new package. At that, they're always doing something to try to tweak things, try to change up the parity, try to keep things fresh in a sense. Don't let things fatigue out. We're in our 4th year with the Gen 7 car, and we've had basically no changes with the car over those 4 years. So it might be time to explore making a change, making some sort of change. What that is, I'm not 100% sure yet. Maybe people over at NASCAR aren't 100% sure yet. But I think it's worth at least looking into, because yeah, we have seen Hendrick Motorsports, Kyle Larson, William Byron, those guys really hit on setups that work and dominate races. But we've seen Team Penske have a ton of speed. Joe Gibbs Racing, they have 5 wins this year. They have a ton of speed as well. And some people think that the parity has started to go away. Like, that was the whole point of the Gen 7, right? Put everybody on a level playing field. And now the parity's still there. It's just not there for the race wins. Not like what we saw in 22, 23. Not as much in 24 now. In 25, yeah, you have Josh Berry and that Wood Brothers team, but we all know that's a Penske car. It's still great to see them win. I think we're all psyched to see them win, but it's not a shock necessarily that they won, and especially now that they have a ton of speed. They're going to win 2-3 races this year if they can put a full race together. So yeah, I think it might be worth kind of exploring that, because the big teams, they've really nailed it right now. And while we're still getting Legacy Motor Club back-to-back top 10 finishes for that team, you're getting RFK up there in the mix, Zane Smith in the mix as well, Spire, there's on the slow come up. Once they can all kind of figure out how to put races together, I think they'll be consistent top 10 finishers, or at least somebody from that organization will each week. You're getting some different teams, some different parities, stuff like that. But ultimately, you're not getting it for the lead, at least not yet. And that's what people want to see. They don't want to see people dominate races. They don't want to see people go out there and lead basically every single lap. They want to see new names up there as well, contending for the win. And maybe there is a need for a bit of a change going forward, but I'm interested to hear what people's thoughts are on it. So let me know in the comments what you think. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok at BreakHard, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at BreakHardBlog.